Step into the shadows of history as we uncover the most malevolent royals to ever grace, or in this case, disgrace, thrones. Brace yourself for a chilling journey through power, betrayal, and the dark side of royalty. Welcome to the most evil royals in history. In this video, we'll discuss the 9 most evil royals who were more like villains than rulers. So stick around and steel yourself, because the palace isn't always a place of dreams. Sometimes it's a nightmare. Number 10. Vlad the Impaler. Vlad the Impaler, born in 1431, and the Prince of Wallachia, inspired Bram Stoker's infamous character, Dracula. Ruling immensely between 1448 and 1496, Vlad held the title of Voivode of Wallachia. He was a national hero in Romania for fighting off foreign attacks, but the way he dealt with his enemies was nothing less than cruel. In one terrifying event, 3 Ottoman men dared to wear hats while Vlad was there. He replied in a macabre way. He nailed the hats to their heads. But Vlad's cruelty didn't stop there. He strangled people to death by sticking stakes through different holes that weren't sharp enough for a quick kill. The stakes were pushed through their bodies until they came out of their mouths, showing how cruel he was. The horrible things that Vlad the Impaler did has left a lasting mark on history. Number 9. Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan, the first great Khan of the Mongol Empire, was born in 1162 and died in 1227. He was the most feared person in the world. He is known as a harsh but very successful war campaign manager and is charged with bringing culture and trade goals up to date. Genghis Khan killed 10 to 15 million people with his military power during a time when advances in technology made it hard to kill large numbers of people. Different historical accounts agree on one thing: there was a cruel king who was known for going into towns, setting them on fire, and killing everyone one by one. In the Persian city of Nishapur, things took a horrific turn when revenge for his son-in-law's death caused a brutal massacre that spared no one, not even dogs. About 1.7 million people are thought to have been affected, but there are still disagreements about how accurate this number is. Number 8. King Henry. King Henry VIII was notorious for his extramarital affairs, but he also left behind a dark legacy that went beyond those affairs. Those who dared to challenge his religious authority were met with merciless brutality during his reign. Although Henry is most known for his ruthless treatment of his 6 wives, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived, his brutality knew no bounds. In 1536, the Pilgrimage of Grace was a protest against Henry's religious changes. Many rebels were killed, even though Henry at first agreed to lessen the punishments. The saintly Carthusian monks from the London Charterhouse were beheaded and quartered at Tyburn because they refused to recognize Henry as the highest authority in the English Church. After that, more horrible things happened, like the killing of John Fisher and St. Thomas More. The Countess of Salisbury, Lady Margaret Pole, met a similar end as a result of her friendship with Cardinal Reginald Pole. Poor and ill people lost access to social services when Henry dissolved 800 monasteries. Number 7. Leopold II. Belgian King Leopold II established the Congo Free State in Central Africa, mid to late 19th century, starting the bloodiest chapter in colonial history. The local people were subjected to forced labor and violent beatings by Leopold's private colony, which was initially motivated by the lucrative ivory trade. The demand for rubber skyrocketed due to the increasing number of automobiles and bicycles, which led Leopold's greasy desire to horrific extreme. Colonizers turned to kidnapping natives and making them work in the woods so they would make use of the plentiful wild rubber trees in their domain. The brutality intensified as the colonizers committed more and more crimes, such as the brutal rape of native women. Officers of Leopold's force publique police ordered that their soldiers provide 1 victim's hand for every bullet used in an effort to reduce ammunition wastage. To show how thrifty they were with ammo, they would cut off the hands of enslaved people who were still alive. The Western world ignored these crimes and ignored the pains of the Congolese people for almost 100 years. It wasn't until the turn of the 21st century that historians began to acknowledge the extent of the brutality, estimating that possibly as many as 10 million Congolese lives were lost due to Leopold's rapacious exploitation. Number 6. Attila the Hun. Attila the Hun, born in 406 AD, took could give evil rulers a bad name. Back in the 5th century, the Huns did their thing, and Attila's uncle led the charge. Little Attila wasn't out having a grand old time, he was stuck as a prisoner, held hostage by the Roman Empire. While Attila chilled in captivity, the Huns agreed to keep it cool and not attack. But as soon as his uncle kicked the bucket, Attila got his ticket to freedom. Released and ready to roll, Attila rounded up all the big-shot tribes of the Huns, those nomadic people already rocking Central Asia and Russia. What followed? A full-fledged campaign of terror. They blitzed through over 100 cities, did some severe population control, looted everything in sight, gave Constantinople a rough time, and even took a shot at besieging Rome. Attila was the Huns' MVP, leading them on a conquest spree that turned Europe into a Dark Age party. Number 5. James VI. James VI of Scotland, later known as James I of England and Ireland, made history by uniting the crowns. James got involved in the witch trials because he thought Satan and the witches were out to get him. The Danish witch trials had inspired him. Thanks to James, people in Scotland who were supposed to be witches were put to death. James wasn't happy supporting the witch trials. He also became a true witch hunter. He participated in cases up in North Berwick, where he spread fear and accusations. People who were accused of magic were impacted by the obsession he had with his downfall. It's interesting that once James got to England, he suddenly lost interest in his witch hunt obsession. He became less sure of things, but the pain he caused while hunting witches in Scotland still stains his reputation. Number 4. Gaius Caligula. Caligula, often cited as a contender for the worst Roman Empire, took madness to new heights during his reign. Initially promising, he quickly focused on intimidating and humiliating the Senate and the army's high command. Declaring himself a god, he even offended Jerusalem. The biggest mistake Caligula made was starting a fake war on the sea. He told soldiers to use swords to cut through the waves and collected seashells as spoils from what he thought was a win over Neptune, the sea god. Even though his failed campaign in Germany hurt Rome's military image even more, he still thought it was a victory. In AD 41, the Praetorian Guard killed him to end his unstable rule. Number 3. Pol Pot. During the 1960s and 1970s, Pol Pot and his French-educated Cambodian friends wanted to get rid of all signs of capitalism. They were motivated by anti-imperial feelings caused by the US role in Vietnam. In 1975, the Khmer Rouge Party took power and quickly put their ideas into action by forcing more than 2 million Cambodians to leave the towns and work in the fields, making a new communist agrarian society. Urbanites and the intelligentsia were seen as useless by Pol Pot's government, which brutally killed the capitalist intelligentsia. The brutal transition and harsh conditions led to the deaths of approximately 1.5 million people between 1975 and 1979. In one housing center with room for almost 20,000 people, only 7 people made it out alive. The Vietnamese forces ended the rule of the Khmer Rouge in 1979, but Pol Pot stayed out of jail until he died in 1998. He left behind a terrible record of dictatorship, including executions, forced labor, and the horrific deaths caused by his extreme efforts to make Cambodia a communist utopia. Number 2. The Butcher King. Eric XIV of Sweden was born on December 13, 1533, and was known as the Butcher King. Eric lost his mother when he was only 2 years old. As a child, he was very smart and did very well in both language and mathematics. But this intellectual brilliance may have helped him become famous later on. Following the death of his father in 1560, Eric became king. He quickly downgraded all the royals to make sure no one could question his power. In 1563, he became extremely suspicious of everyone around him, which caused his brother to be arrested for high treason. During Eric's rule, people were killed for no reason, making it a sad story of cruel and unusual punishments. Number 1. Jon XII. In the Middle Ages, when papal standards were not very strict, Jon XII stood out as a natural disaster. He became pope when he was 18, thanks to his deal with the Roman nobility. The papacy and King Berengarius of Italy were involved in a small-scale conflict he inherited. John had strong support in the form of Otto I, the German ruler. Otto promised always to be loyal to John and have his back. But John wasn't paying attention because he was too busy drinking and having fun at the Lateran. When he finally woke up in time for Otto's loyalty oath, he lied to Otto and joined hands with Berengarius. Otto was angry and he had enough. He threw John out and accused him of everything from murder to lying under oath, and even having an affair. He appointed Leo VIII as Pope in John's stead. John wasn't done though. He bounced back, punishing Leo's supporters with a ruthless hand. One poor cardinal lost a hand, and a bishop got a taste of the whip. Which ruler did you find the most cruel among all these? Share your thoughts in the comment section to extend the chat. And don't forget to check out the channel for more exciting videos.